This is video 2 of a 3-part series that I had with Duncan Stewart, the Director of Research over at Deloitte Canada. And we're talking about Deloitte's technology, media, and telecommunication predictions for 2023. In this discussion, we talk about low Earth orbit satellites, something that Duncan originally got me interested in. And the first time I ever learned about these low Earth orbit satellites was through you. Years ago. And the growth I looked at the graph, it just blows me away. And I was thinking about when that Rogers network outage went down, I was like, what are the telecoms, the big three? Are they looking at that as a backup to their systems, or is that their competition, or is this a completely different market?
It's a completely different market. Duncan is a low Earth orbit satellite. Okay, I know I don't look like it. I am 600 kilometers over the lower mainland. I can paint a spot that is about the size of Surrey, and inside that spot, I can cover maybe 5 to 10 simultaneous users.
Really?
It's the mechanics. You're up in space. You're up in space. The fact that I can put a spot on the Earth that's only 600 kilometers in area, that's amazing science. And in the far north, if you get up into Peace River country, if you start talking about north of Burns Lake, this is a really interesting technology for providing service. If you are a fisher person off the Queen Charlotte's in your boat, able to now all of a sudden get high-speed, low-latency data, that's amazing. But it is not a substitute for a terrestrial network. It cannot support a significant population density.
So when you look at these companies, because I was thinking, and I looked at what your data was showing, and China is going to get big on this, and they were looking at what, 13,000? So who are they catering? Who is this for within that, within China?
So I've actually written a separate article, not even the prediction about that. So one of the things about having a low Earth orbit network that is controlled by, let's say, an American company like Starlink, or a UK company like OneWeb, if I'm the Chinese and I see Western countries like the UK ban Chinese equipment, and I see the United States ban the export of, I would worry about, like, if I want a low Earth orbit network, I kind of got to build my own. So, okay, we got a UK one, we got an American one. Now we've got a Chinese one. What do you think the Russians are going to? Russians can probably do their own too. The EU could build one because they want their own for various reasons. Arab countries, there's some ideas there, they might do it. India, you just start getting the sense here of there's a lot of different people. In our prediction, we say it could be up to 50,000 satellites. Andy, we're wrong. Just last week, the FCC in the US announced a new space division, and they said that on their files, they see up to 64,000 of these satellites up there. And space is big, but Andy, it ain't that big.
Yes.
In low Earth orbit, 60,000, they start running the risk of hitting each other, creating debris, and that creates a cascade. You've probably seen the movie Gravity. Something this big traveling at 20 kilometers per second is potentially incredibly dangerous.
So how do we fix it? Because if space debris is going to be an issue, who controls space, right?
Nobody.
It's not like you don't have jurisdiction within your country saying this. It doesn't work like that, right?
There is no traffic cop in space. 1. 2, there aren't even any agreed upon rules. There is no right of way, keep to the right, keep to the left. There are no rules. So what do? 1, we need to develop rules of the road. That's really important. 2, will we establish a global jurisdiction on traffic cop? Probably never. I can't see that happening. Yeah. We can develop better space situational awareness. This is where I know where everything is all of the time. I know where other satellites are. I know where the debris is. That's important. And the other thing is, and you might remember this from Canadian companies actually talked about this, refueling and servicing satellites in space. So if you've got a satellite that's dangerous and running out of fuel, you could actually refuel it and prevent it from turning into garbage. That's actually a Canadian skill set. Who knew?
And how much debris are we talking about that's there already? Because if you say like 60,000, that's just going to create a landfill up in space eventually.
Well, so there are tens of thousands of objects that we currently track that are bigger than 15 centimeters, which is about this big. There are hundreds of thousands that are smaller than that. And as I said, stuff moving at 20 kilometers per second, relative speeds, it's a disaster no matter how small it is. Literally, a fleck of paint could destroy a satellite.
And is it the countries have to all get into a room and try to like work this out? Is this the UN problem? Like how? I just can't imagine everybody sitting in a room trying to navigate who's going to pay for this and whatnot.
I don't think it's ever going to happen. And that's a problem. The other problem is, and we know this, the US and China and Russia all have technology to blow up the other side's satellites, because satellites are a critical reconnaissance communication thing. This has been demonstrated. The Chinese blew up one of their own satellites. They didn't experiment on somebody else's. That would have been even worse. But they blew up one of their own satellites with one of these killer sats, is what they're called. And they created an additional, with that single explosion, one killer sat, 2,000 extra pieces of tracked orbital debris.
Oh, wow. Wow. And now we have, like you said, China. We're going to have governments with their own LEO satellites. Then you're going to have private companies with their own LEO satellites. This is going to be a mess.
It's the Wild West in space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I hope you enjoyed video 2 of this 3-part series that I did with Duncan Stewart, the Director of Research over at Deloitte Canada. Be sure to watch video 1 where we discuss an ad-supported model for streaming services, and also video 3 where we talk about social media as a subscription service and social commerce in general. I'm Andy Baryer. Handy Andy. See you again next time.